Giants are here. Look at them, they're little big balls.
Can I just leave that there?
Yeah, sure.
Cackles wise, a little shorty. There you go, boys.
Looks pretty serious, Callum Ward, doesn't he? Closer.
Yeah, I think he's got to get a little bit here in his life.
We right, Nick?
Hello, boys. Congratulations. Tasmania, we'll get back going. Navy's turned up at last. Central Australia. And down south. Shit, Sandy. The Irish turned up the country.
Welcome everybody. This is an exciting day for the Giants. We're pleased to announce today that we've re-signed another 7 of our players to long-term agreements with the club. Behind me, Jonathan Patton, Dom Tyson, Will Hoskin-Elliott, Andrew Phillips and Sam Frost have all extended through until the end of 2015. And Curtly Hampton and Aidan Corr have extended through until the end of 2016. I want to thank all 7 players for the commitment and faith they've shown in the Giants. They follow a number of players last year that we announced as having long-term commitments to this club. We've often said that the list establishment rules are only as strong as our ability to develop and retain our young players. Many people were sceptical that we couldn't retain the talent that we've been able to acquire, and I think we've proved them wrong. We've now signed or re-signed nearly half our young playing list to long-term contracts, which is a great endorsement of the Giants, a great endorsement of our welfare programs and of our staff. I particularly want to acknowledge the work of Stephen Silvani, Gubby Allen, Craig and Melissa Lambert, who head up our player welfare program, and the coaching staff led by Kevin Sheedy and Leon Cameron. They've created the environment that has made these young players see their future at the Giants. And is a great endorsement of the AFL's expansion into Western Sydney, a significant investment and a long-term investment that is going to pay great dividends for the game. We've started this year on a high note. Our membership currently stands at 10,381. We're ahead of this time last year by about 5,000 members. We've already beaten the Swans in a game that I think they took more seriously than they maybe have in the past in the NAB Cup. And we cannot wait for the derby here at ANZ Stadium on March the 30th. Last year we approached the derby, I think, with some trepidation on debut in an AFL competition, but with many of these players now with a year or more under their belts, we hope to match it with the Swans in that game at round 1. Our partners, our sponsors, our members and our fans should take great confidence in the direction this club is taking. The Giants are well and truly on the map in Western Sydney and in Canberra, and we're excited about what the future holds. I'd now like to ask Kevin Sheedy to say a few words about the young players behind me and about the next month ahead. And then we'll ask Jonathan Patton to speak on behalf of the players. Kevin.
Thanks, David. It's obviously a really pleasing feature for our club to have the boys have the confidence in the end to want to stay with the club. Obviously after a 1 year where it was a tough year for the boys in their first year, but also I think they understand the development process that we're going through, the whole club and themselves, in the amount of games they've played in their first year. Obviously having 36 first game players, and of course some of the boys here are obviously first round draft picks, others are rookies. I cannot understand where people let a player like Andrew Phillips over here, a big tall boy obviously from Tasmania, being left in the draft, and Sam Frost over here, most incredibly that clubs in Melbourne and outside of the Giants would leave these boys there for us to pick up as a rookie. They were bonuses, and it's great to see them sign up because I think they're going to have great futures in the AFL. The other boys obviously that played on the weekend have been pretty exciting. to get through nearly there with 2 wins against 2 very experienced clubs, and to show the commitment to say, look, we're happy to be in Sydney, we're happy to be living in the west of Sydney, and also to have a career that actually is a development of the game of AFL north of the Murray River. And I think that when you line up what had happened previously, obviously with the Swans taking, basically 2.5 decades to win a premiership, and the investment put into the Gold Coast when the Bears were first put up there and placed there to see the development of the game. It's great to see these young players understand in the end that they are holding the game of AFL for the 7.9 million people to assist Sydney to actually make it a great game in New South Wales. Historically, they'll look back in their careers one day and be very, very proud of the contracts they've just signed and the joining of this club, because it will be one of the great clubs of AFL from here on in and the future.
And I'd now like to ask Jonathan Patton to speak on behalf of the players. Jonathan.
Thanks, Dave. Just like to say on behalf of the guys, how happy we are to re-sign with the club, and to club that any young player to get the chance to play it is something pretty special. We got a lot of talent here, and all the boys are really good blokes, and the support staff and coaches like Kevin and Leon Cameron we got, and then the guys behind the scenes like Dave and Gubby Allen and Sauce, they've all done an amazing job of putting this list together. And being a young player, I never thought, I'm pretty sure most of us didn't really think about leaving the club. It's a club that you don't really want to leave, and I think we can do something pretty special in the coming years. So, it's a great club to be at, and all very happy to re-sign and pretty relieved. So
as I said at the opening, a great and exciting day for the club. Very exciting, obviously, to have these 7 young men, not just talented players, but great people as well. And we now open it up to questions.
A lot of people said that players would rather stay they'd rather go to the Gold Coast than come to Western Sydney. This is a pretty good sign that the players themselves are pretty happy to play for the Giants.
Well, I think Sydney's a very exciting city, and I think a lot of players have started to learn that. It's a huge city, and I think the beaches here are just as good as anywhere else when they get a bit of free time. They've got an exciting stadium to play in. We play our first game here, obviously, but also when you have a look at what's going to happen when we start to fill Skoda Stadium, they'll be really enjoying that, because 25,000 full house there is going to be it's going to be rocketing. You've seen what's happening at Geelong with that sort of size stadium. But I think the camaraderie between the guys, all coming through at the same age, I think that's an energy. People talk about some of the concerns we have in football, but I actually think that the spirit and morale of some of the boys as they grow through their teenage years into the early 20s. I've been and seen it at Richmond, and I've seen it at Essendon, that they very, very rarely leave that environment that they actually went through nearly as a platoon together, as if the boys are in Defence Forces. They're here, they're a pretty united group. They do enjoy their environment where they're living, and it'll be fair to say 3 years ago no one was sure, but I think the actual people of West Sydney and the people in Sydney where we've lived and played have really been fantastic in accepting this new club into the west of Sydney, and I think that's been a part of it too. No one in our clubs feels uncomfortable about being here and playing for the Giants.
Have you had to fend off some sharks that have been circling around to try and pick up some of this incredible talent that you've got?
Look, I would know the player managers, that they would know, and they've got every right to say, do you want to come back to Melbourne? But at the moment, no one wants to leave, and I think that's a recipe for success. That's the way I look at it, and we may have lost 1 or 2 players at Essendon over the years that maybe then we had to, but that might have been for a monster contract, or we just they left for other family reasons. But generally, these players they enjoy training together. I watched them on the training track about 2 hours ago, and mate, they just went from drill to drill to drill, ready to get to play a mighty game down in Wagga against Brisbane this week. And then of course we've got a monster game down in Canberra in 2 weeks. And people on the Gold Coast, on the South Coast, they are looking forward to the game against Essendon in Canberra. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have a packed house for the NAB Cup down there, because they'll be coming up from, Bateman's Bay and now and the South Coast. So look, when the players start seeing that they're going to have a lot of fans, I mean they've gone through a pretty tough last couple of years, I think you'll get a bit of a chance to feel even better about the way they perform, and a support base of 15 to 20,000 in the first year or two. That's enormous, and we'll actually get to appreciate that. The players will get to love that, I can assure you.
Must be doing something right. Someone like Hayden, who's only been here for a matter of months, who's already prepared to commit his future to the club.
Well, look, I haven't spoken about why he did re-sign immediately, and I hope it's a fair chance he knows he's going to play in a good footy team, because if you're out there and getting a chance to play with some really good players that are pretty cool about their talent. I mean, we should have won the 2 games. Very disappointing that we didn't win the 2 games on Sunday night. So that in itself says I think I wouldn't mind being around this team, and he's in his first year, so that's only he can answer that question. So maybe you should answer it. I like that.
I signed up with the Giants, just extended my contract because it got down. The boys are so welcoming. I like where the club's going to go. I can see the success we're going to have, and I just really enjoyed my first few months here. And I come here to play footy, and I'm not really worried about money and all that sort of thing. So I'm happy enough here, and my family and all that support me and all that. So I was happy to sign for Giants.
Well, mate, it's a pretty simple, honest answer. It's love to hear. Any other questions?
Yeah, look at us, given what's going on in Melbourne.
Given what's going on in Melbourne, what is going on in the little bubble down there?
What's going on down there, isn't it? But really the concessions and everything, obviously you penned the letter on the club's website. Are you worried at all that the development of the club might be
No, I'm not. I'll tell you why. Because the actual clubs, they created the establishment rules of this club. They actually all voted yes. They put this team and us in place, every one of us. So they should not, be concerned about that. They got their chances to win premierships. Hawthorn had a chance to win it last year. They didn't. Swans did. Years previously, Collingwood's have won premierships. West Coast have been in the top 4. Everyone's getting a chance. It's not as if you're, playing in the English professional league sort of thing, where only 4 get a chance. In our game, nearly every club gets a chance, and when we peak, hopefully we're really good, and hopefully we can pick up a premiership or 2 one day. But in general, nearly every club in the last, I'd say, nearly 15 years have had a chance of being in the grand final, because they've all been in a preliminary final. So I think there's a little bit of overreaction, possibly. But David, you watch the rules get created, so you know more about it than anyone.
I think you're right. The other 16 clubs signed off on the rules. I think they would also have banked on a number of these players not wanting to extend. So it's an exciting day for us. It'll be a disappointing day for a lot of Melbourne clubs. And the question before about whether our players would have considered alternatives, I'm sure they did, or their managers did. And we want to be compared with the other clubs, because we want our young talented players to know that this is the very best career option for them. I think we've created a great environment, and as I said before, the list establishment rules are only as strong as our ability to retain the players, so we have retained them, and I'm sure that comes with some disappointment for other clubs in the competition, but the point is we're in the competition. And we can't keep apologising for being in the competition, and we're not going to apologise for beating the Swans on Sunday night or developing into a powerful club over time. we're in the competition, and we don't expect to have to continue to defend rules or, I guess, opportunities to build this club, because we're building something that in the end will benefit every club in the competition.
It's one view though, it's terrific news for now. Can you foresee a problem at the end of 2015 if all had 3 or 4 years in the system and being able to retain them all again at that stage of their career?
Again, that's incumbent upon us to make sure that we've got the best facilities, the best welfare, that they're well rewarded. I think this club's got off to a great start. It's got off to a great start, and it's prioritised welfare from day one. And at the age a lot of our players are, their parents and families are a big factor in the retention. Are they happy? Are their sons happy in Sydney? And the answer is they are. In 3 or 4 years' time, the questions might be more about, how we're going on the field. Are we going to be successful? Who's coaching? What's the environment? Is it still as good as it was when they made the decision they just have? So, that's incumbent upon us. But we very much intend on these 7 men behind us being a long-term part of the club.
Yeah, as Dave said, I think a lot of clubs would assume that some of these players would be right for the picking. Do you think now, as they're trying to not change the rules, but they seem unhappy with the rules they established, do you think they're a bit afraid of what the Giants can do or are achieving up yet?
I think they are. Yeah, I think they're probably a bit nervous now. I think they lived in the land of hope when maybe 6 would have gone back within the first 2 or 3 years. But as you get to see that it doesn't always happen to be the best thing for some players. Nathan Buckley never played in the premiership when he left, Brisbane, and Rocker never played, I don't think, in a premiership, So that happens.
But we do understand self-interest, because, some of the messages you get from some of the Melbourne clubs are, we're happy for you to be in the competition, we just don't want you to be any good. Obviously our self-interest is that we want to develop well, and they talk a lot about young talent, but they forget about the fact that we've got a couple of rookies here who were passed over, that were brought players back into the system like Jonathan Giles, Tim Moore, that Adam Kennedy was overlooked 120 times, and he's a great young player for the club. So we've also got 9 players on our list from New South Wales, which is something that it was in the rules. Can this new club stimulate the development of talent in New South Wales? So our list is made up of many components, and we'll continue to work every opportunity we've got.
A third of one of the teams last week was not wanted. That's what he's saying, basically about a third, 6-7 players of last week's team. And there'll be other players not wanted that they'll make up a poor decision on. But I think in the end, the guys are pretty happy being in Sydney. And look, we're here to represent the 4 or 5 million people west of, basically in the end, the Anzac Bridge. And there's a whole in here, and also Broken Hill, right down through the southern New South Wales and right down through from Berry to Eden. So I'll spend a bit of time running around the New South Wales countryside. David's asked me to generate a lot of interest in membership and sponsorship, and I think by the next month or 2 you'll find out some pretty exciting work that we've been doing off season, and you'll probably sit down and wonder how that all happened. But it's because we've got somebody to actually get out there and represent the people of the West, and not only the west of Sydney, but the whole west of New South Wales.
No, not that I know of. Manager didn't speak to me about anything like that, but I never thought about leaving the club, to be honest. Very happy here, and like everyone else has said, I think we're going to a pretty. Is that right, Keith?
After the way he played on Saturday night, I think everybody said, wow. And he got down there and just gobbled a couple of balls up like a human vacuum cleaning company. And for a big fella to get down there, we hadn't seen him coming off his operation. The young man's had a serious operation, recovering this time 12 months ago. Not many people I know in football sit there, travel around the world, the other side of the world, get their knee operated on, get the one half of their body shut down. He's watching his operation while he's sitting up on a screen, and of course gets about 7 games throughout the season to give him some confidence. His performance was welcoming to the team. I think the team know that, you know, with him and Jeremy Cameron and a few of the boys up in the forward line, we can get it in there a bit more often. I think we'll get some decent scores on the board, and every one of these guys will be a part of that, and they'll grow together as a fantastic united unit. That's the exciting part about coaching, and it's the exciting part about working with young people, because you don't know what's going to happen, but we can sense it.
We should ask John what about that, because how frustrating last year must have been, you know, physically.
Yeah, the time was very frustrating. Sometimes, you know, when you're in long sort of rehab, you don't really think about what's at the end of the tunnel. And but you know, now being fit and having a pre-season, it's, you know, you look back and you just think it's all worth it. And for the Giants just to send me to Sweden was, you know, something that was a big, I guess, part of my decision to stay here. And you know, for them to send me to the other side of the world, it was just, you know, pretty amazing. So this is just a bit, I guess, a bit of a thank you, and yeah. So,
Jonathan, you went with another player, didn't you? Mark Wiley went along too. Did he have the same operation?
Yeah. Mark Wiley had the same operation.
And how's he been playing?
Yeah, well, you wouldn't even notice that that Mark Wiley's had that operation. So, and he had it in both knees as well. So I think he's been performing really well throughout the pre-season.
So that's the welfare David was talking about. I mean, not many Melbourne clubs send their players overseas to get the number of specialists to get their right.
Can I ask you, mate, you missed this time last year. I think mateship's got a lot to do with the fact that all of the young blokes are re-signing. One of your great mates, Dom Tyson's missed a chunk of the year. Like, obviously he missed this part of the year last year, he was missing this year. You yourself and a lot of the boys around the club have obviously been a great support to Dom, trying to get him through this time period from him, with you and a couple of the other guys having been through that yourself.
Yeah, 100%. You know, it was you know, it was so many, because Dom's such a popular player amongst the group, and when he went down, you know, I think just everyone got behind him, and especially that I was in his position last year, probably had the same amount of time in the rehab. It was, you know, I just gave him a bit of advice and just said, you know, you got to keep your head up and just get through it, and then when he's out of it, he'll just be better for it, and you know, that's it. You know, we're all great mates here, and it's not just about whether we want to go home and see our families. I think it's just that you don't want to leave you don't want to leave your great mates. You know, we're all best mates here. We all came from Melbourne and knew no one here, so we're always doing things together. I don't think anyone can believe that.
You mentioned success. Obviously, every side of the play. I mean, I think that success can come.
Yeah, well, I think it can. I think I'm not going to put a timeline or anything, but I think it's going to happen sooner or later. So, well, everyone wants success. That's why you play the game. You want to win grand finals and be the best you can be. And I think we're in, you know, the best position you could possibly be in to do that. Yeah.
Fellas, can I just make a comment before we finish that even in the off season, the important thing about developing people, and Curly, you played in the match, come up mate, in Alice Springs. How did you find playing with the best Indigenous team in Australia? Was that a great experience for you?
Yeah, obviously pretty special going back home.
To Alice Springs?
Yeah, to Alice Springs, playing for the Indigenous All-Stars and playing with, you know, the likes of, you know, some of the blokes I idolised when I was growing up. Was pretty special as well, so to do that, hopefully it holds me in good stead for the year to come. Okay,
and Dom, come up mate, you've been out for a few months now, but yesterday you were down at Albatross. Okay, tell us about your trip down by helicopter, and you're talking as a young to the new recruits in the Navy. What was that like, mate?
Yeah, it was a pretty good experience actually. Myself and yourself actually, yeah, we jetted down by helicopter after a school visit in Dundas, St. Patrick's College, night down in Nowra. So she's addressed probably about 500 of the Navy members, and I addressed the cadet group, the junior members around the 19 to 22-year-olds. So yeah, it was a good experience, sort of see how their life operates and sort of their strict protocols like that. So just get another perspective. Good, I guess. Sort of being in long-term rehab, it's good to get out of the club some days. Out there, I guess. So just puts you a bit of perspective on where you're at.
So there's a lot there to be done other than just footy, which is what we talk to the schools about. Sorry.
I was just going to say the AFL's announced, so I know more than 2 days of concussion conference just to talk about.
I can't remember anything about my career. I want to talk to them about this. I think in general, I think anything to make sure that we look after the welfare of the players, I think it's important. There's no doubt about that. But I did make a comment last week that if we're going to have players come immediately off the ground, and the concern was, when you got 3 on the bench and one dressed down as the 4th player, my concern, if 2 teammates hit each other and knock each other out, then all of a sudden you're playing 2 less. I'd free up the 4th player eventually. That would be a very important thing just for team balance in a club, but on the match day I'm talking about, so that you don't lose 2 all of a sudden over a bit of a knock, obviously in a pack. But I agree that if they're anywhere near concussion, take them off the ground. That's a safety.
Did you watch the Diesel Williams interview on the...
No, I haven't. Most of my life I've been tagging Diesel Williams with terrible people, so I might be the person who would watch that. But look, he'll tell you that because he's just a straight shooter. There's no doubt about that. And if the commentary that I've heard about that interview since then, he'll tell you the facts and he'll tell you the truth.
So can I ask you about Lockie Whitfield? First game in the Navy Cup last week, and where you went, and whether you know if he's any closer to signing on the dotted line?
Well, he just put his sack down in the camp down there in the Parramatta River, but he'll eventually get to love the club. It's only a matter of time. He'll get his opportunities, and chances I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play like some of the other boys that have played 10 or 12 or 14 or 15 games. I mean, he'll enjoy the Giants because, first of all, we give a lot of young players an opportunity, more ahead of other clubs because, I'm a risk taker. I like playing the younger players, and it's paid dividends. He'll enjoy playing with a damn good football team. We've got a guy called Will Hoskinelli. He's going to be an absolute superstar. And as a matter of fact, I think 3 or 4 of these boys, David and I, we actually rang up and got 4 sponsors straight away this morning in about 10 minutes. 4 player sponsors in 4 phone calls, right throughout Sydney and Melbourne. So it's quite amazing that we've got this sponsorship deal coming through with players like a Lockie Whitfield. We'll be able to get this team really up and running, and those sponsors will be a part mentor of a player like a Lockie Whitfield. So Lockie Whitfield, he'll play most games early to find out where he's at, and then we'll look at his body will tell us when not to play. And I think that's what's happened with most of the boys. Sometimes, in all honesty, it's not that hard because the players sometimes by round 5 or 6 they'll need a break, or even by round 3. They're very young, their bodies are very young, they're not fully developed, and I'll judge that with Lockie as the head coach when we see fit if he needs to have a break.
Guys, thanks very much for your attendance today. It's a great day for the club. I really appreciate you coming out. Not everyone had to break in and climb through the grandstands like the coach.
Oh, memories.
But we're pleased to be here today and welcome these 7 young men who've committed to the club through until 2:15 and 2:16. And they've got an opportunity for photos with Kevin. So